Daniel had been searching for work for months. The human colonies were crowded, food was short, and jobs were rare, so when he heard of an alien settlement looking for workers, he did not think twice. He packed his small bag, took the transport ship, and left his old life behind. The alien settlement was far away on the edge of space. When Daniel stepped off the shuttle, the air felt different, warmer, and full of strange scents. Alien houses curved like shells lined the streets, glowing faintly in the evening light. Strange music played from crystal towers, and alien children ran past him with curious eyes. He felt both welcome and uneasy. A tall alien with pale skin and silver eyes greeted him. "Welcome, human," the alien said, his voice smooth like water. "We have been waiting for you. Your work here will be important." Daniel bowed slightly, unsure of their customs. He was led through the settlement where every alien smiled at him. Too many smiles, too much warmth, it felt unnatural. They brought him to a hall where a long table stretched with glowing papers. Symbols covered the pages, shifting and alive. Daniel admitted he could not read them. The aliens only laughed softly. "No need, human, only your agreement is required," one elder said. They handed him a pen-like tool, urging him to sign. His stomach tightened, but the thought of steady work made him press the tip and mark the paper. The aliens clapped gently as if something special had happened. Daniel felt a strange chill run through him. Why would a contract for simple labor bring such celebration? He asked what the job would be, but their answers were vague. "You will help us continue our way of life. Your strength will bring us hope. You will give what we need most," said another alien. Daniel forced a smile, though his mind spun with questions. They led him to a small house at the edge of the settlement. It was far nicer than he expected, with soft walls glowing faintly and a bed that seemed to float. A table was already filled with food, strange fruits, glowing drinks, and steaming bread. It looked like a feast, not a meal for a worker. He ate cautiously, the taste sweet and sharp, filling him faster than normal food. Through the window, he saw alien women standing in the street, whispering while watching his house. Their eyes were not cold, but they carried something heavy, something expectant. Daniel closed the curtain uneasily. That night, Daniel tried to sleep, but strange sounds kept him awake. Whispers carried through the walls, almost like singing. He thought he saw shadows moving outside, waiting. Every part of him wanted to believe this was just the kindness of an alien culture. But deep down, he felt like he had walked into a trap. The next morning, a young alien woman came to his door. Her eyes lowered, her hands shaking as she held a basket of fruit. "You must eat well, human," she whispered. "Your work will begin soon." Daniel asked her what kind of work. She looked at him with wide eyes, as if she wanted to say more but dared not. Instead, she placed the basket on the table and hurried away, leaving him with more questions. As Daniel sat in the glowing room, staring at the strange contract on the table, he felt the weight of every smile, every whisper, and every shadow outside. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. This was not an ordinary job, but what exactly had he signed up for? And why did every alien look at him like he was not just a worker but something more? The house seemed to breathe around him. The settlement hummed with hidden secrets. And Daniel realized his new job was not a blessing. It was the beginning of something he could not yet understand, something he might not escape. Hook ending. Daniel thought he had come to build a new life, but instead, he had stepped into a carefully woven net, and the settlement was waiting for him to learn its terrible truth. The morning sun rose over the alien settlement, painting the sky with colors Daniel had never seen. Stripes of blue, violet, and gold shimmered across the horizon. He stepped outside his small glowing house, trying to breathe calmly. The settlement looked beautiful, but beauty could not cover the unease in his chest. Everywhere he went, aliens greeted him. They bowed their heads, touched their chests, and smiled as if he were already part of their lives. Daniel smiled back, though his lips felt heavy. It was strange. He had only arrived yesterday, yet they acted like they had known him for years. Some even whispered in their soft alien tongue, their eyes never leaving him. Children peeked from behind crystal fences, giggling when he waved. Old aliens nodded slowly, their eyes shining with pride. Young women stood in groups, whispering, and watching him from a distance. Every smile seemed heavy, every greeting too warm. It was not the welcome of strangers. It was the gaze of people who already expected something from him. Daniel decided to walk to the central square. The ground shimmered beneath his boots, glowing with faint patterns that pulsed like veins. At the heart of the settlement, tall crystal towers spiraled into the air, singing softly with the wind. Markets filled the square with strange food, glowing fabrics, and machines that hummed. With power, it should have been exciting, but all Daniel felt was a quiet pressure, like the whole place was watching him. As he moved, vendors offered him goods without asking for payment. A farmer pressed glowing fruit into his hands, smiling wide. A craftsman wrapped a necklace around his wrist, murmuring, "For the one who carries our hope." Daniel thanked them, but inside his thoughts raced. Why were they giving him gifts? Why were they treating him like someone special? He was just a man looking for work, nothing more. At the edge of the square, he found the elder who had first welcomed him. The alien's silver eyes glimmered under the sunlight. "Do you see, human?" the elder said, spreading his long fingers toward the people. "They smile because you are here, because you will help us continue." Daniel frowned. "Continue what? I don't understand." The elder only smiled and patted his shoulder gently. "You will soon enough trust in our way." Daniel left the elder unsettled. As he walked back toward his house, a group of alien women crossed his path. They were tall, graceful, with shimmering skin that caught the light. One of them stepped closer, her voice soft but clear. "You must take care of yourself, human. Eat well, rest well, your strength is needed." Her words were kind, but her eyes carried something deeper, a mix of fear, duty, and longing. Daniel nodded, unable to speak, and walked away quickly. Later, when night fell, the settlement glowed with soft lights from every home. Daniel sat by his window watching the people gather in the square for some kind of ritual. They lit crystals that pulsed with blue light, their voices chanting in harmony. He leaned closer, trying to understand. At the center stood the elder, raising his hands. "The human has come," the elder declared. "Our hope will rise. Our future will be secure. He will give us what we have lost." The crowd cheered, their voices echoing through the night. Daniel's heart pounded, his hands gripping the window frame. He pulled back quickly, shutting the curtain. They were speaking about him. There was no doubt. But what did they mean by "he will give us what we have lost"? Sleep did not come easily. He turned again and again on the soft floating bed. Every smile from the day replayed in his mind, every gift, every whisper, every watchful eye. It was too much, too heavy. They were hiding something, but no one would say it. They treated him like a savior, but he did not know why. And the more he thought about it, the more his chest tightened with fear. By dawn, Daniel sat awake, staring at the strange contract still lying on his table. He remembered the elder's words, the woman's warning to stay strong, the chants in the square. It was all connected, but he could not see the truth yet. The settlement smiled, but behind every smile, there was a secret. A secret. He was trapped. Inside, hook ending. Daniel had come for simple work, but the smiles of the settlement were not kindness. They were chains, and soon he would learn what they truly expected of him. The morning air was heavy with mist, glowing faintly as the alien sun rose. Daniel stepped out of his strange house, expecting someone to call him for farm work or building duties. Instead, a quiet young alien woman waited at his door, her hands folded, her eyes avoiding his. "Today you will begin," she whispered, then bowed and led him down the shining street. Daniel followed, his boots echoing softly against the glowing ground. The settlement looked alive, the walls of the houses pulsing like veins, the air humming like it carried a secret. They walked past the market, past the square, and into a part of the settlement Daniel had not seen before. It was quieter here, and the houses looked different, larger, shaped like nests or cocoons. The woman pointed to one house, its door wide open, glowing faintly. "Here is your place," she said, her voice trembling. "Your task begins inside." Daniel stepped in cautiously, expecting tools, machines, maybe animals. But what he saw froze him. The house was filled with soft beds, warm lights, and strange painted symbols on the walls. The air smelled of flowers and something sweeter, almost too sweet. It was not a workshop, it was not a farm, it felt like a nursery, or worse, a place prepared for something else. He turned to ask the woman, but she was already gone, leaving. Him alone, Daniel walked slowly through the rooms, each one stranger than the last. One room held small glowing cradles, rocking gently though no one touched them. Another room had shelves of folded cloth, soft and bright, and in the largest room stood a round bed that seemed alive, pulsing faintly like a heart. Daniel stepped back, his skin crawling as he explored. He heard faint footsteps. He turned quickly and saw another alien girl standing in the doorway. She was young, her hair shining faintly under the light, her eyes wide with fear. "You must not be afraid," she said softly. "It is natural for you humans." Daniel stared at her, his throat dry. "What do you mean?" he asked. "What work am I supposed to do here?" The girl bit her lip, her hands clutching the fabric of her dress. "They said you would understand. They said humans know this task. Your body will give our future." Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. The words struck him like lightning, and suddenly all the whispers, all the smiles, all the strange gifts made sense. This was not about farming, not about building. The job was something darker, something he had never agreed to. They wanted him to breed children, to use him like a tool. He backed away, shaking his head. "No, that can't be true. You must be mistaken." But the girl only lowered her head, her voice trembling. "I was chosen to be the first. They said it was an honor. Please don't make it harder for me." Her words cut into him like a blade. Daniel felt trapped, his stomach twisting with anger and fear. This was no job. It was slavery dressed as duty. He rushed out of the glowing house, his feet pounding against the ground. Aliens in the street turned to watch him, their smiles softer now, almost expectant. He could not escape their eyes, their whispers followed him like chains. One elder stepped forward and blocked his path. "Do not run, human," the elder said gently. "Your task is sacred. Your refusal will break us." Daniel clenched his fists, fury rising. "You lied to me," he shouted. "You promised me work. Not this. I never agreed to this." The elder's silver eyes darkened, but his smile never faded. "Your agreement was given. Your mark is on the contract. There is no turning back, not now, not ever." Daniel pushed past him and stumbled back to his house. He slammed the door shut, his breath sharp, his hands shaking. The alien contract still lay on the table, glowing faintly. He stared at it with horror, realizing he had signed his own prison. Outside, soft footsteps gathered. Whispers rose like a song. The settlement was watching him, waiting for him to accept the task. That night, Daniel sat in the corner of his room, unable to rest. The glowing walls seemed to close in. The bed pulsed faintly as if calling him, and somewhere in the dark, he heard the voice of the young alien girl, trembling yet determined. "Tomorrow they will come for you. You cannot refuse again." Hook ending. Daniel had thought he found a future in this settlement, but now he knew the truth. He was not a worker. He was a prisoner of their desperate need. And tomorrow, the real nightmare would begin. Daniel woke to a knock at his door. His body was tired from a restless night, his mind heavy with fear. When he opened the door, two tall aliens stood waiting, their silver eyes glowing faintly. "Come," one of them said softly. "The council wishes to speak with you." Daniel followed, though every step felt like walking into a trap. The settlement was quiet that morning. Too quiet. The people still smiled as he passed, but their smiles seemed sharper now, almost demanding. Children pointed at him, women whispered, and the elders bowed their heads as if honoring him. He felt like an actor in a play he did not understand, but he knew the end would not be good. The council hall was carved from glowing stone, tall pillars rising like frozen flames. Inside, the elders sat in a circle, their faces calm, their hands resting on crystal rods. Daniel stood before them, his fists clenched, his jaw tight. "You lied to me," he said, his voice shaking. "You said this was work. But it is not. It is something else, something I never agreed to." The eldest alien leaned forward, his voice deep but strangely gentle. "Human, you must understand, our people have suffered. Our males are gone, taken by war and disease. Our numbers fall each year. Without new life, we will vanish. Your kind is strong. Your body can give us what we lack. You are not here to work the land. You are here to save a race." Daniel's heart pounded as the truth struck him fully. This was their plan all along? This was why the contract was so easy, why the smiles never stopped. He was not a worker, he was a breeder. The settlement wanted his children. They wanted his humanity, not for his skills, but for his blood. He shook his head violently, anger burning in his chest. "No, I will not be used like that. I will not be your tool. I am a man, not an animal for your breeding." Murmurs rippled through the council, but the elder raised a hand and silence fell. "You cannot refuse," the elder said calmly. "Your mark is on the contract. Your food, your shelter, your safety, all come from us. If you deny us, then you deny your own survival." Daniel's fist trembled. He wanted to fight, to shout, but his words caught in his throat. He saw the alien guards at the door, tall and silent, their eyes cold. He realized he was trapped. They would not let him leave. The council's smiles were not kindness, they were chains. Then from the corner of the hall, a soft voice broke the silence. It was the young alien girl he had seen before, the one who had whispered to him in the strange house. She stepped forward, her eyes shining with fear and defiance. "Not all of us want this," she said, her voice trembling. "He should not be forced. We cannot build our future on chains." Gasps filled the hall. Some elders glared, but others looked uneasy. The eldest alien struck his staff against the ground, silencing the room. "You are young and foolish," he hissed. "This is not choice, it is survival." The girl lowered her head, but her fists tightened. Daniel saw her courage and felt a spark of hope. He was not completely alone. There was at least one voice on his side. But the weight of the council crushed that spark quickly. The elder leaned closer, his silver eyes burning. "You must accept your task, human. Tonight the first ceremony begins. Do not resist, or you will face punishment beyond your understanding." The guard stepped closer, guiding Daniel out of the hall. He walked in silence, his chest heavy, his mind spinning. The truth was clear now. This was not work. It was a prison wrapped in smiles. The aliens would not let him leave, not let him refuse. Tonight, they would try to bind him to their plan forever. Back at his house, Daniel sat in the corner, his head in his hands. The walls glowed softly, but the light felt like a cage. Outside, whispers rose again, voices humming with anticipation. They were waiting for him, expecting him to give in. He thought of Earth, of freedom, of the life he had left behind. He thought of the young alien girl who had dared to speak for him. She might be his only ally, but could he trust her? Night fell, and with it, the sound of footsteps drew near. The settlement glowed brighter. The chants grew louder. Daniel's heart raced, his body tense. He knew the terrible truth now, and he knew the aliens would not stop. The question was no longer what they wanted, but whether he could resist long enough to escape. Hook ending. Daniel had discovered the terrible truth, but the real danger had only just begun. Tonight, the settlement would claim him unless he found a way to fight back. The chants outside Daniel's house grew louder as night fell. The glowing walls of his room pulsed faintly, as if in rhythm with the voices. He sat in the corner, his fists tight, his heart pounding. He knew what they expected from him, but every part of his soul screamed to resist. The door opened slowly and an alien guard stepped in, tall and silent. "Come," the guard ordered, his voice firm but not cruel. "The ceremony waits." Daniel shook his head. "I will not go. You can drag me if you want, but I will not do what you demand." The guard's silver eyes narrowed, his hand tightening on the crystal rod he carried. For a long moment it seemed he might strike Daniel, but instead he only said, "Refusal has a price, human," and left, leaving The door unlocked. Daniel sat frozen, his mind racing. Why leave the door open? Was it a test, a trap, or a chance? He stood and paced, every step heavy with fear and anger. He could not let them take his choice, not like this. Even if they called it sacred. Even if they believed it was survival. To him, it was chains. Hours passed, and the chance faded. The settlement quieted. Again, Daniel thought he might finally rest, but a faint knock tapped at his door. He opened it slowly, and there she was, the young alien girl who had spoken for him in the council. Her eyes darted nervously around before she slipped inside. "You cannot keep resisting in the open," she whispered. "They will break you. You must be careful." Daniel stared at her, torn between hope and suspicion. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "Aren't you one of them?" She lowered her head, her voice shaking. "I am one of them, but I am not blind. I was chosen to be brought to you, to stand in that room with you. But I never wanted this. I do not believe our future should be built this way." Her words cut through the silence like fire. For the first time, Daniel felt less alone. He sat across from her, his voice low. "I cannot do what they want. I will not. But how do I fight? An entire settlement." The girl's hands trembled as she pulled a small crystal from her robe. "This is from the old tunnels," she said, "before the council built their towers. Passages run beneath the ground, hidden, forgotten by many, but I know some still exist. If you want to escape, it may be the only way." Daniel took the crystal, its faint glow warming his palm. "Escape," he whispered, the word tasting both sweet and impossible. He thought of Earth, of freedom, of living as a man again, not a prisoner. But then he looked at the girl, and he saw the fear in her eyes. "If I leave, what happens to you?" he asked. She shook her head. "If you leave, they will punish me, but if you stay, they will punish us both, perhaps in different ways." The weight of her words pressed against his chest. He could not save her and himself, not yet, but he also knew he could not simply give in to the council's demands. For the first time in days, Daniel felt a plan forming, small but sharp. He would resist, not openly but quietly, secretly waiting for the right moment. That night, he blew out the glowing lights in his room and sat in darkness. The girl stayed near him, her voice soft as she whispered stories of her people, how the council had grown desperate after the wars, how fear had twisted survival into control. Her words were heavy with sorrow, yet Daniel could feel the strength hidden beneath them. They were both trapped, but together. Maybe they could find a way to fight back. As dawn approached, Daniel closed his eyes. He knew the council would not wait forever. They would come again with more guards, more force. But now he was not just afraid. He was ready to resist. Not with violence yet, but with defiance. He would not break. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. Outside, the settlement woke with its glowing hum. The people smiled as they always did, their eyes shining with false warmth. But Daniel's eyes were sharper now, colder. He saw the smiles for what they were, chains disguised as kindness, and he swore to himself, in the shadows of his glowing prison, he would resist them in the dark, until the day came when he could strike back, hook-ending. Daniel had chosen resistance over surrender, but with every passing day the council's patience would grow thinner, and soon the dark would no longer hide him. Daniel awoke before the settlement stirred, the pale glow of the walls painting soft shadows across the floor. The girl was already awake, kneeling by the small window, her eyes scanning the quiet streets below. She turned to him, her face serious, her voice barely a whisper. "I found a map," she said, sliding a folded piece of crystal-thin paper toward him. "It shows tunnels beneath the settlement, hidden, passages that lead out, but they are dangerous. Some parts are trapped or blocked. You must be careful." Daniel leaned over the map, tracing the winding paths with his finger. Each line felt like a lifeline, a chance to reclaim freedom. But he also saw the dangers marked with tiny symbols he could not yet understand. He looked at the girl, her eyes filled with both fear and determination. Why are you helping me so much? He asked. I am just a human. I am not part of your world. She smiled faintly. Maybe, but humans still have something we lost. Choice, courage, heart. If you survive, perhaps you can show us a better way. The first rays of light touched the glowing walls, signaling the start of another day. Daniel knew the council would call for him soon. To test his obedience, he had to act before that happened. They could not know he was planning to escape, or the tunnels would be blocked forever. He spent the morning pretending to work, cleaning the small garden outside the council chambers. Every movement was precise, calm, normal, but in his mind, he traced the path of the tunnels, memorizing turns and exits. The girl stayed nearby, pretending to help with the plants, her hands brushing against his sometimes, sending a jolt through him. He knew they could be caught at any moment, but he also felt a strange sense of hope growing. That night they met in the corner of his small room, away from the glowing sensors. Daniel unrolled the map again, studying it under the dim light. There is a guard rotation here, he said, pointing to a series of marks along the tunnel entrance. If we wait until the middle of the night, they change shifts, and there will be a small window to get through unnoticed. The girl nodded. I can distract the guards if you need. Draw them to the opposite side, but it will be risky. They might notice me. Daniel shook his head. We will do it together. Carefully, step by step. If one of us is caught, the other cannot leave either. We must both survive. The plan grew more detailed as they whispered, plotting routes, escape points, and signals. Daniel felt a strange thrill he had never known, a mixture of fear, excitement, and purpose. For the first time, he felt in control of his fate. He could see the council's towers glowing in the distance, their power absolute but not unbreakable. If he succeeded, he could escape and perhaps even change the settlement from within. Days passed as they prepared, moving quietly, memorizing every twist and turn of the tunnels. Daniel and the girl shared small moments of laughter, hiding them from the watchful eyes of the settlement. They talked about Earth, about places they wanted to see, and about the strange bond forming between them. It was a bond built not from comfort or safety, but from shared fear, courage, and a hunger for freedom. Finally, the night arrived, the moment of their escape. Daniel checked the map one last time, ensuring every step was clear. The girl handed him a small crystal lantern, its light soft but steady. Ready, she whispered, her voice trembling. Once we enter the tunnels, there is no turning back until we see the sky again. Daniel nodded, his heart pounding but his mind focused. They slipped out of the room silently, moving like shadows across the settlement. Every sound seemed amplified, every step dangerous. They reached the hidden tunnel entrance, covered by vines and glowing moss. Daniel pushed aside the barrier, revealing the dark mouth of the passage. The girl squeezed his hand, and together they stepped into the unknown. Daniel and the girl moved through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing softly against the stone walls. The air was damp and cold, and the faint glow of moss gave only a shadowy guide. Every corner held uncertainty. Every sound could mean danger. The girl led the way, her eyes sharp, sensing traps and weak floors before Daniel could even see them. He followed closely, gripping the lantern, his heart pounding in rhythm with the tension of the moment. The first challenge came quickly, a narrow passage with broken beams and jagged rocks. Daniel almost stumbled, his foot catching on a hidden obstacle. The girl caught his arm, steadying him. Be careful, the tunnels are full of surprises, she whispered. He nodded, careful not to make a sound that could alert anyone above. They crawled, climbed, and squeezed through, their bond growing stronger with each step. The fear of capture sharpened their senses but also gave them courage. Hours passed, the tunnels winding deeper than Daniel imagined. He began to doubt if the exit even existed, if freedom was real, or just another illusion. The girl noticed his hesitation. We are close, she said, her voice soft but certain. Trust me, I have been here before. I know the paths better than anyone. Her confidence gave him strength, and he forced himself to keep moving even as exhaustion tugged at his body. Suddenly, A distant sound echoed through the tunnels, a metallic clink that made Daniel freeze. The girl held up her hand, signaling him to stop. They crouched in a narrow alcove as footsteps approached, the rhythm heavy and deliberate. A guard, sent by the council, patrolled the lower tunnels, unaware of the human and the small alien hiding in the shadows. Daniel's breath caught in his throat, and he felt the weight of the world pressing down. The girl pressed a finger to her lips, and slowly, silently, they slipped into a hidden side passage, avoiding the guard. The sound of their pursuer faded, leaving only the echo of dripping water and their racing hearts. Finally, after what felt like endless twists and turns, they reached a faint light, the first sign of the outside world. Daniel's eyes widened as he saw the sky through a narrow opening, stars shimmering faintly in the darkness. The girl smiled. "Almost there," she said, her voice trembling with relief and anticipation. They climbed carefully, using rocks and roots as steps, until they emerged in a small clearing outside, the settlement. The air was cool and fresh, the night alive with strange alien sounds. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling the weight of oppression lift from his shoulders. For the first time in weeks, he felt free. Yet he knew their journey was not over. The girl turned to him, her expression serious. "We have to warn others," she said. "The council will not stop with us. There are more who are trapped, more who need help." Daniel nodded, understanding the enormity of what they had just done. They were not just escaping for themselves. They had discovered the truth about the settlement, the horrific purpose behind the jobs. Children were being produced not by choice, but by order, and the council controlled every life. He shivered at the thought, but also felt a burning determination. Under the cover of the night, they moved away from the settlement, keeping to the shadows. Every step was careful, but each step also brought them closer to hope. The girl stopped and looked at him. "I owe you my life," she whispered. "And I think you saved more than just me. You saved the possibility of freedom." Daniel smiled faintly. "We saved it together," he said, feeling a warmth he had never felt before. The moonlight bathed them, the night alive with the possibility of new beginnings. They walked side by side, ready to face whatever came next, knowing they had broken the chains of the council and discovered courage they never knew they had.